Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled parent stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My entitled kids refuse to eat at the dinner table. After that, get rid of my vacation, have fun replacing me. And after that, fired for my hair, restaurant had to be closed down. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to eat at the dinner table. But I want to go to my room and watch Netflix. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My entitled kids refuse to eat at the dinner table. I, 26 female, have been dating Henry, 33 male, for about 2 years now. He has 2 kids from his previous marriage, Kevin, who's 8, and Ella, who's 6. He and his ex-wife, Jess, have 75-25 custody. So ever since Henry moved in with me a few months ago, the kids stay with us 25% of the time. Jess is a laid-back parent who lets her kids do whatever they want. Henry doesn't like confrontation, so he defers to Jess most of the time. There are many instances where I disagree with her parenting style, but I'm not their mother and I know my place. The issue: Henry isn't the best cook, so in our home, I do all of the cooking. He cleans up. Whenever he has the kids, I make their meals. The way I was raised, you eat your meals at the table. I feel like it's the respectful thing to do when someone has prepared food for you. So I was a bit shocked when the first night I cooked for his kids, they took their plates without a word and went to watch TV on the sofa. I called them back and asked them to please sit at the table. They listened, and the rest of the time we had no problems. Then, the next time they came back from Jess' place, we had the same issue. When I told them to please sit down, they began to complain. Mom lets us have our iPads at dinner. Mom lets us eat in our rooms. I understood their confusion. Of course, being kids, it must be difficult to adjust to having 2 different homes. Of course, it must be confusing to have different dinner rules. I explained that while they may be able to eat where they want at their mother's, at our house, I wanted them to eat with us and to see their beautiful faces enjoy the meal. After they went home, I got an angry phone call from Jess. She said that I was just Henry's girlfriend and that I had no right to tell her kids what to do. I told her that yes, I was just the girlfriend, and yes, I shouldn't overstep. But while they are in my home, eating my food, I feel that I can have a say in how they eat it. Besides, it isn't as if I told her kids that my way was the right way or criticized her parenting to their faces. I told her it was unrealistic that I'd have 0 role in childcare when they live with me and Henry 25% of the time. I cook their food, do their laundry, and drive them places. So while I am not their mother, I am more than a stranger. She blew up at me and called me a jerk and has been harassing Henry non-stop about this. He pulled me aside yesterday, asking me to please just give in to keep the peace. The kids hate my rule. Jess hates my rule, and he's afraid that they won't want to live with him anymore. I told him he can cook for them himself, but as long as they're eating my food, I want to stand my ground. He told me he expected better from me and is upset. All 4 people in this conflict seem to think I'm the jerk right now, and I'm really lost. This is my first time dating someone with kids. I realize I may be out of my depth, so I'd appreciate some unbiased insight. Am I the jerk? Edit. Just to clarify, as people seem confused in the comments, I talked to Henry the first night and we both agreed to the rule. I wouldn't make a major decision without his consent. He changed his mind after Jess threatened to sue for custody. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. Ouch, this is a tough one. Please do leave a comment with your opinion. I can't wait to read them. Get rid of my vacation? Have fun replacing me. I worked at a company that gave out exorbitant amounts of vacation. Anyone who worked there for 25 plus years received 8 weeks of vacation and 2 weeks of personal time. This was a family-owned company, but rather large. We ran 3 shifts, totaling 250 plus people. Enter Jimmy. Jimmy was a grizzled old man. He started at the company when he was just 20. Now he was 63 and gave absolutely 0 hoots. Jimmy also knew how to make a specific part for our product. Him and one other higher up in the office. One day, the plant owner comes out and announces he's selling to a corporation. He's older and ready to retire. He promises that there will be very little change and wishes us all well. The new company comes in and immediately goes after many of the great benefits we had. The first thing they do is cut everyone's max vacation down to 4 weeks and do completely away with the personal time. Anyone who's maxed out had until December 31st of that year to use it up, and they wouldn't pay it out. Then they go into the office and clean house, firing anyone who's close to retirement, including Jimmy's backup. But they also do away with one very important rule. You no longer have to get vacation approved. You can just call in and take it. Jimmy is upset, and they know it. They realize he's the only one in the building that can do his job now. So they hire a new kid for him to train, most likely to permanently replace Jimmy. So Jimmy does what anyone would do. He calls in the first training day for the new hire and lets us know he's going to use all of his paid time off at once and promptly takes 10 weeks off. We had a backstock of parts he had made, so it wasn't too unnerving. But for 10 weeks, Jimmy went and applied to other jobs, found one, and started. Fast forward 10 weeks, it's the day Jimmy is supposed to return. He doesn't. For 2 days, they try calling him and even go to his house. He's nowhere to be found. Finally, on day 3, he calls and resigns, and they lose their crap. The parts he makes are specialized and patented by the original founder. You can't just hire someone off the street to make them. What eventually happened was they had to contract the original owner to come in and teach some new hires how to make them. And when he found out what they had all done, it really upset him. The last I heard, he charged them a 7-figure contract to teach them how to produce the parts, and they had to pony up or close down. Moral of the story, don't mess with people's vacation time. Edit. Jimmy made an electronic control module that was sealed and stayed fixed in a poured unit made of a 2-part epoxy. Edit 2. Jimmy didn't exactly miss out on a 7-figure contract and had zero chance to take one. He left, said forget it, and moved on. When they contacted the previous owner and explained the situation, it was basically a, "You need my help? It'll cost you $1 million" type of conversation. Fired for my hair. Restaurant had to close down. When I was in high school, I got a part-time job as a hostess at an Italian restaurant with a friend of mine. The restaurant was only open 5 days a week for dinner. The restaurant was fairly new, but was already filling every table every night because the food was amazing. In addition to my friend and I being the only 2 hostesses, the busboys were friends, half of the waiters were friends, and the dishwasher was a friend. The owner's son was the floor manager, and with the success of the restaurant, started to implement new changes. Everyone must look presentable and in uniform at all times. No dirty uniforms, even for the busboy. He was rather rude to all employees and would hover and take over our jobs right in front of customers, apologizing for our inability to do our jobs correctly. However, everyone there was fantastic at their jobs. The dishwasher even found creative ways to stay clean and tidy. The straw broke one night when my friend and I were both working the hostess stand on a packed Saturday night. The manager walked up to us and declared our hair was not compliant with dress code. Both of us had our hair pulled back in the requisite buns. However, we both had a few stray wisps. You know, those tiny little new hairs around your face. Never mind that it was August and it was hot, and we were all working as a team like crazy to make sure the night ran smoothly, sharing duties such as bussing tables and running food and drinks. He loudly fired both of us on the spot in front of the entire restaurant and front staff. He then said we were required to continue to work for 2 weeks and train our replacements. I asked, "Are we fired?" He said yes, and I said, "Fired means we don't work for you anymore." We walked out, punched our cards, and went to change out of our uniforms. When we got out of the dressing rooms, there was a line of people waiting to change, including the busboys, half the waitstaff, and the dishwasher. All were so mad about what had happened that they quit on the spot. No one liked the job anyway. We all went to IHOP to eat and were soon joined by the rest of the waitstaff and the line cooks. So all that was left of the entire restaurant staff was the bartender, the owner/cook, and the manager. I later heard that the owner just decided to shut down the restaurant because the only reason he started it was to provide his son a legacy from the family businesses in Italy, and he decided his son couldn't handle it. Speaking of restaurants, what's your favorite restaurant to eat at of all time? Please let us know. I could really go for some Chili's right now. 2 for $20. Guest thinks we made a mistake and is expecting compensation. I explained that what we did was part of our hotel policy. At 12 p.m., we send security to all of the departing rooms to let them know that it's checkout time. We have a deal with a third party that allows a 2 p.m. checkout for their VIP members. We still send security to these rooms because if they check out without informing us, we can send housekeeping to the room and not wait until 2 p.m. If the guest indicates that they will be using the 2 p.m., we don't go in the room until 2 p.m. If they don't mention it, we send security up at 12 to check if they will still be using it. I sent security to a room with that 2 p.m. checkout. Guest wasn't answering after 3 knocks, so security announced himself and peeked his head into the room. The guest then screamed for security to leave. Shortly after, the guest calls down in a very angry voice and says that security walked in on him while he was getting dressed. His tone of voice really bothered me. It was like a, "Gotcha," like he thought he would get compensated for this. The way he was talking was as if the hotel had done him over big time and he was about to get a comp stay or even more. He tells me to have a manager call him now. I hang up the phone, wait a few minutes, then I call him back. I explained to him that what we did is the hotel's policy and then explained why we do it. He disagreed with our policy and said it didn't make sense. I just pretended to sound concerned. Right, I see, okay. Then after he was done complaining, it got quiet. Then, him. Me. Was there any other question you had? Him.
Well, no, but I just disagree with the policy.
Me. I understand that, sir.
Like, he literally walked in on me while I was changing.
Me. He had knocked 3 times, but you didn't answer. He then announced himself before opening the door. Once it hits 12 p.m., our security staff has the right to enter the room.
I was in the bathroom. How can I hear a knock from the bathroom?
Well, he had told me that he didn't actually see you. He just heard you yell, so he closed the door. If you were in the bathroom, then how did he walk in on you? Him, stuttering for a minute. Then,
after I heard the door open, I stepped out of the bathroom.
Me. Well, sir, as I mentioned, he had knocked multiple times and had the right to enter the room at 12.
Okay, well, I don't think your policy is right. What's the point of 2 p.m. checkout if someone is still going to come to the door? Doesn't make sense.
Me. I'll definitely pass your dissatisfaction with our policy on to the manager. Him. Silence. Me. Did you have any other questions?
You know, I'm not expecting anything. I just need to know that my complaint is heard.
As I explained, I will be passing this on to a manager, so your complaint is heard.
Well, everyone just says they'll pass it on. How do I know something will actually come of this?
Me. Well, this is our hotel policy. I can't guarantee that we will change it, especially since this is the first complaint anyone has ever had on it. But like I said, I'll let a manager know.
I don't want you to give me anything free or anything like that, but you're not going to do anything for me?
If you aren't expecting any compensation, then what else can I really do for you other than pass your feedback on to a manager? Did you have something specific in mind? Him. Silence. Then,
so you're basically telling me you're not going to do anything for me?
Me. What I'm doing for you is giving a manager your feedback like you asked. As for compensation, we can't compensate someone just because they disagree with our policies. Him.
So basically, you're not going to do anything?
Me. That is correct. Hangs up. Edit. Just clarifying, the 2 p.m. checkout is not a paid perk. It's comped since they're a member of the third-party service. The guest didn't specifically pay to get a later checkout. Think about if you want to be employed here. Will do, boss. So this is from over a decade ago, but it's the only time I've ever quit a job and thought y'all might enjoy it. I worked for Target on their overnight team, 10 p.m. to 6:30 a.m., and eventually a specialist position came up, for which I applied and was granted. This was the position of receiver, scheduled to work 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., which basically was the person who would take in vendor orders, i.e. not things that were sent straight from corporate, but instead the Coca-Cola guy or the Lay's potato chip guy, etc., and specialty orders that came in at times other than the main truck. This was a job where instead of one major task, you dealt with about 20 minor ones throughout the day, and your day varied based on the whims of the people who are bringing things to you. We had a delivery cutoff of 12 p.m., but management would always say, just take things no matter when they came. I generally was really good about managing my time and making sure if I needed to stay late for something important, I did. And if it was something minor, say the romance books that could wait overnight to process, I'd get it first thing in the morning. I had a good rapport with my boss, and I got great reviews. Then my boss got a promotion, and my new boss was a real jerk. The new boss, we can call him John because that was his name, forget you, John, was a tyrant of the pettiest type. He'd wonder why things were left overnight when I wasn't busy earlier in the day when he saw me, because I'd completed all my tasks, and I can't make UPS come faster than they do. When Target's corporate told my department it was busy enough for a 20-hour-a-week worker, he refused to let me get anyone for longer than 30-minute lunch breaks. The straw that broke my back was P-Fresh. For those of you who didn't work at Target in the early 2000s, P-Fresh was what they called their new initiative to have groceries in the store. It was a big deal for them, and my store was one of the pilot stores in our area. I would be the first person to have to deal with this, and then I would have to teach receivers in the area how it works by having them shadow me for a day at my store, and me at theirs when they get their fresh food. The fresh food came in a separate truck that arrived at 4 a.m. I expected, like I was informed, I would simply have to process it first thing in the morning when I got to work. Instead, John decided that my schedule was going to be changed to 4 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Getting up at 3 a.m. to be at work at 4 a.m. was not fun, but I dealt with it because I was a team player. However, John still insisted I needed all of my work done by the time I left at 12:30 p.m., an impossibility when the cutoff for deliveries was 12 p.m. I still prioritized things as good as I could, and nothing urgent was left undone for more than 24 hours, when Target was pretty good at making sure we had plenty of time to receive things before they had to hit the floor for street dates and such. The straw that broke my back was when the specialist position was terminated. Basically, Target wanted those special positions in the normal chain of command, which is fine. However, when they did this, they also gave lots of power to John. You see, it was in my old position that I had weekends off, because people don't deliver on the weekends, and was not required to work holidays, along with being a guaranteed 40-hour-a-week Monday through Friday position. When this change came through, HR informed us that we had a week to decide whether we wanted the position or if we wanted to go to another position in the company, or if we wanted severance. HR informed me that nothing would really be changing with my job because it was still important, whereas other jobs like the jewelry counter weren't considered as important and were being rolled in with other things. I was going to stay with the position until John brought me into his office later that day. He told me he was tired of my poor attitude involving getting things done, so he was changing my schedule to a split shift. Basically, he wanted me to come in from 4 to 5 a.m., then go home for an hour, then come back at 6 a.m. and work until 1:30 p.m. He also told me that any overtime would no longer be allowed, and that I'd have to start working 1 weekend a month and holidays. He also wrote me up for something that I did not do, but the person who covered my lunches did, under the guise of me not training them properly. His words were, "You need to think long and hard about how you are working, and think about if you want to be employed here in a month." I told him he was absolutely right. I told him I would be right back. I had to run to the restroom. Instead, I went to HR and told them I'm taking the severance, and as it was 12:25 p.m., I'm guessing this is my last day. I then got to go back to John and tell him what I just said. He told me that I had to come back next week to train my replacement. I walked out of that building happier than I had been in the last 3 years working there. I got texts over the next few months of the fallout. The receiving department was a nightmare for months, and since I was the only one who knew how to handle their refrigerated trucks, they lost an entire truck's worth of merchandise that week. That was not a good look for them. Additionally, corporate had to send out people from out of the area to cover all of the training I was supposed to provide, which cost them a lot of money and made corporate even more upset with John. Last I heard, he had been let go, and the next place he worked fired him for harassment. I had a month's vacation where I got totally prepared for WoW Cataclysm, and then I took a new job. I was happy as a clam. Am I the jerk for exposing the real reason why my cousins weren't invited to my wedding? This incident started about 4 years ago, but a recent post reminded me of it. A lot of my family had my back, but I don't trust their judgment on a number of things. Background: my 3 cousins, males, 14, 16, and 17 at the time, had a phase where they wanted to be famous YouTube pranksters. They thought they would achieve stardom by posting some really mean-spirited prank videos. I didn't find out about this until later, but several of their pranks targeted my then-girlfriend, now wife, Esther. One of which was swapping out my wife's fakin' bits with actual bacon, then secretly recording her as she ate salad with the real bacon bits. Esther doesn't eat pork for religious reasons. Their sister showed this video to us. Our reaction to the video was so visceral, we seriously considered pressing charges on my cousins. In the end, we didn't, but we cut off contact with my 3 cousins and their mother, my dad's sister, who acted like it was no big deal. The cousins never apologized for what they did. A few years later, and Esther and I are getting married. We sent out invitations around October of 2019. Middle cousin made a post on Facebook calling me out for excluding his family and asking where their invites are. Then he called my wife and I names for disinviting them because he's gay. That's literally how I found out he was. I had no idea beforehand. Good for him, but that doesn't excuse him for what he and his brothers did. Most of his followers who responded agreed with him and demanded that we invite his family. I felt like I had no choice at the time. I wrote a comment saying something on the lines of, "The reason why you, cousin 1 and 2, and aunt weren't invited was because you turned my wife-to-be into the butt of your immature prank videos and tricked her into eating something her faith bans." Their sister backed me up and shared the video. According to a post middle cousin later made, he got fired from his volunteer job at a teen helpline and had another job offer pulled because the higher-ups saw the video. Something similar also happened to his brothers. Their sister confirmed it. As far as I know, they're unemployed and living with their mom. I don't know which part upsets me more, my cousins bullying my wife or lying about it to cover their own tracks at our expense. Most of my family backs Esther and I, but I don't trust their judgment because they have their own reasons to be mad at my aunt and her family. Those guys are in their 20s now and act like the videos were no big deal while blaming Esther, me, and their sister for ruining their lives. Their mom is no help either. Am I the jerk for setting the record straight and telling everyone the real reason why my cousins weren't invited to my wedding? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his cousins? Please let us know. Pro tip: anyone who tries to start drama with you on Facebook shouldn't be part of your life. It's not 9 a.m. yet. I worked for a small startup for the first few years of my career. My boss, the CEO, seemed to be still grasping object permanence, as he had a hard time wrapping his head around people working where he could not physically see them doing so. But he was getting better over time. Business hours were 9 to 6, but all of our work could be done from home, and we had an office in Australia that some people communicated directly with, and tight release schedules sometimes meant long nights followed by late starts. So the informal policy tended to be as long as you were in the office by 10 and not leaving before 5, you didn't need to explain yourself, and anything beyond that was fine as long as you gave someone a heads up, especially if you were managed by the CEO, who was too busy to pay close attention to people's exact arrivals and departures, and frequently away from the office himself, speaking at various events. Enter our new VP, a 30-something milquetoast MBA type. Unlike the CEO, he was not too busy to pay attention to arrivals and departures, and told the CEO that obviously the lazy employees were taking advantage. The CEO, who again was sort of inclined this direction himself, sends out an email one Friday saying that from this point forward, people needed to be in the office every day by 9 and they needed permission from their manager to leave before 6. Everyone was upset, but there was no real sense of long-term concern. This wasn't the first arbitrary rule that had been handed down in this fashion, and it tended to be easiest to play along for a week or two until the CEO had moved on to the next thing and then just ignored the rule. But the next Monday, when I showed up at 8:50, 2 of my coworkers were sitting on the stairs to the unoccupied next floor, just talking and playing Candy Crush. What are you doing? It's not 9 a.m. yet. I sat down with them, and soon someone else arrived, and the same conversation played out. At 8:59, we all got up and walked into the office. On Tuesday, there were half a dozen people on the stairs, including leadership, chatting and texting and whatever. And when the VP arrived, people would just make hard eye contact while he squirmed. Meanwhile, myself and a few other people just said forget it and arrived after 9 a.m. anyway, looking the VP straight in the eye as we walked in. A few people who were a little more conflict averse would stop for coffee across the street and just so happened to arrive at like 9:02, including people who normally preferred to start at 7 a.m. All of this meant that rather than being about half full, the office was virtually empty until 9. The end result of all of this was that the office was virtually empty until exactly 9 a.m. and tended to clear out at exactly 6 p.m. Several people, including myself, simply stopped responding to anything outside work hours. One of my favorite coworkers also made a show of announcing to her contacts in the Australia office that she could now only meet between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. their time. Calamity ensued. The funny thing is that we never really talked about it before or during. It just sort of happened naturally. The CEO, who had been barely at the office on Monday/Tuesday, finally showed up early on Wednesday, asked why everyone was outside, and we told him. He opened his mouth to protest that no, that wasn't what he meant, realized what was happening, and made a strategic retreat. The policy was formally retracted 2 days later. We never discussed it again, and it was the beginning of a very messy fall from grace for the VP. I may be a jerk, but you are still paying for that stain. I think I either need a vacation or a short break from humanity. I'm an FDM at an independent. From time to time, I'll work an AM shift just to keep me grounded and also see if we need to make any policy or procedure changes to make things easier for the staff. I get a call while working the AM shift this past weekend. Guest: Hi, I just wanted to let you know I'm checking out soon and that there's some red sticky stuff on the carpet between the beds, but that was there when we checked in. Me: Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. Did you have the opportunity to call the front desk to let them know of this? No, but we just put one of the pool towels over it. Me: I see. Well, I'm sorry to hear about the carpet. However, without letting us know when you checked in that there was a problem, we will have to post damages, as well as the pool policy form you signed did indicate to not remove our pool towels from the pool area. But we didn't do it. Me: I understand what you're saying, ma'am, but all of our rooms are double inspected before we release them into inventory, and we would have blocked it for shampooing. I'm one of the people who double-checked that room. Well, I work in hospitality, and it's not our fault, and I can bring up all of us there to let you know what we saw. Me: Ma'am, again, I understand what you are saying. I don't appreciate you threatening to have 12 people, 3 different rooms, come and confront me about this situation. Working in hospitality, then you most certainly understand how inspections work. Yes, I understand hospitality is broad and not always hotel-related, but don't go throwing hands if you can't back them. You need to put your manager on the phone. Me: I am the front desk manager, ma'am, and your cards will be charged in accordance with our policy and the document you signed upon check-in. This is the final decision and will not be reversed. My GM always backs me, thankfully. Guest: You're a jerk. Me: Thank you. Yes, I am, ma'am. You enjoy your day. I'm the hyper-vigilant one when it comes to room checks, so if there was anything on that carpet, it would have been shampooed within minutes and sold last to let it dry. Or we'd block it for the night. Either way, there was nothing on the carpet, and with all those darn kids with them, I know pop or juice would have been spilled. If she had called the desk right away and let them know there was a spill, there would have been no damage posted because I appreciate honest people and accidents do happen. But to lie and then call me a jerk? Oh honey, I have earned that jerk title and wear that crown proudly. Entitled mom tries to get me to spend more money on her kid. I'm a daycare teacher, 4 to 5-year-olds. I love my job. It fulfills me and it makes my life worth living. Once a month we do parties. Most teachers just watch a movie. I love to do themes. I love making decorations, photo props, games that fit into the theme. It can add up quickly, but I budget, and the way I see it, if I need to eat rice and beans a few nights a week to be able to afford it, so be it. As I said, I love my job and my students. I'm happy to do it for them. Graduation is this month, my boss's idea, not mine. And a part of this is the teachers need to take 7 to 8 specific pictures for their books. I decided to do something meaningful for them instead of a party. I got graduation announcements from Walmart, 2 for each kid, in case of parents are separated. Grandparents, the parents wanted one for family keepsake, whatever. I got them printed, 34 in total, put them in envelopes, added a note to the kid. I was feeling really good about it until I had this interaction with an entitled mom. Hey, so my husband brought home the announcements and they are so cute. Me: I'm so glad you like them. I think they turned out good. So, when can we expect the rest? Me, starting to panic. Oh, did you not get 2? No, we did, but that's not enough. Me: Oh, sorry, that's all I can afford right now. But I'm happy to text or email you the copies and the template I used. No? I want more. I had a family emergency earlier this month. I wish I could afford more, but I just can't. Can't you take out of your party fund? I need 18 more. Nee, I don't get a fund. I buy all of this myself. That's all I can give. I'm so happy to do it for you, so please don't think I'm not. Then, I guess I will have to go to your manager. And she did. I'm glad my boss didn't cave, but the family did drop because of this. The time Mr. and Mrs. Karen came to stay for a week. So this happened when I was about 13. My dad invited his childhood friend and his wife to stay with us for a week. It was a disaster and we have not seen them since. So the entitlement started a week before they were set to arrive. We were informed that the Karens would be bringing their dog. They also told us their dog must be part beaver because it chews on trees and stuff, and they were sure that wouldn't be an issue. Right. Dad said they could not bring the dog, which upset them, but they agreed in the end after my dad offered to pay for puppy boarding. The second event was much more minor, but was the first one that affected me. My parents were not thrilled with video games because of how much I liked to play them, so they kept the Xbox 360 in the guest room, so of course I would not be able to play. This upset me because I had just bought Forza and was excited to start playing it. Well, the second day, Mr. Karen told me that he was really enjoying playing Forza. I hadn't even taken it out of the plastic it came in. I was upset, but in reality, this was not a big deal. I found out years later that the Karens had gotten into my parents' nice wine as well, like $200 to $1,000 bottles. My parents did not drink at the time, but my mom was an executive at our hospital and was always given nice wine. She usually regifted it. The final day they were here, we took them to our favorite Mexican restaurant. We came here every week and were very well known for my father's excessive tipping. Well, this was the one and only time that I can remember that our food was messed up. Basically, the restaurant forgot our order and it sat for a while and got cold. Not a huge deal, but obviously the Karens had to go off the deep end. After we pointed out that the food was cold, the kitchen offered to remake it. This did not satisfy the Karens. They wanted the meal to be remade and they wanted it for free. Now, I'm not sure how everyone else views this kind of stuff, but I was raised to believe that either you get refunded or you get your meal remade, but not both. Now my dad reminded Mr. Karen that this meal was his treat and that remaking the meal was more than enough. Mr. Karen would not let it go, and eventually a manager offered to comp the remade meals, which we had at this point. Being a Karen, that was not enough, and somehow Mr. Karen got breakfast buffet vouchers thrown in as well. They were leaving the next day, so they wouldn't get a chance to use it, so I don't know why he demanded it. Being a kid, I wasn't paying a ton of attention and was happy that I got 2 meals. I was hungry and ate my cold burrito while the adults were arguing and was still brought a new one. My dad was beyond embarrassed as we knew the staff very well. My dad ended up paying for the meals, both the originals and the remakes. He's generous and stubborn beyond belief. He was not about to not let him pay, and left an unbelievable tip for having to deal with this while Mr. and Mrs. Karen were not paying attention. My parents were really nervous to go back because of how poorly the people my dad introduced as his friends treated the staff. Staff were cool about it though, and we never brought people we were not 100% sure about to that restaurant again. I have not seen the Karens since. Please come watch this video next, you're gonna love it. And huge shout out to our newest official channel member, Heidi Lowe. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, it really means the world to us. Join as a channel member today and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And why not have us make a video reading your script? Just head over to our Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.